The Knights Templar are often remembered as fierce warriors who protected pilgrims traveling along the way to the Holy Land, but they have mostly been remembered for their ferocious nature. But what if they didn't come from a holy order at all? What if the Knights Templar was a secret organization that took on their own agendas when it came to the Crusades? Welcome to my channel. And today, let's find out the truth behind the Knights Templar in Assassin's Creed, the Third Crusade. The Crusaders were Europeans who undertook the call to arms by the papacy to participate in the Crusades, a series of religious wars enacted against the enemies of the Latin Church. The first three, and most prominent of these conflicts, involved military expeditions against the Islamic rulers of the Holy Land, aiming to forcefully claim it in the name of Christianity. While a majority of Crusaders served personally in the armies of the kingdoms of Europe, the most iconic were members of a number of Christian military orders who worked in unison with these European kingdoms. These orders were largely founded in the Holy Land itself, ostensibly to protect Christian pilgrims. Amongst their number were counted knightly orders, such as the Knights Hospitalier, the Knights Teutonic, and the Knights Templar. The last was only a public front for the shadowy organization which in antiquity operated under the name the Order of the Ancients. By the time of the Third Crusade, the name Templar had been popularized for and become synonymous with this covert group among those in the know of their activities. They seeded their members into various factions. The Saracens notwithstanding, this included the other two Crusader orders. The Crusaders and their operations were therefore closely linked with those of the Templar Order. Prominent Hospitaller and Teutonic leaders sometimes held dual membership with the Templar Order, albeit keeping their second affiliation secret. By the year 1191, the Crusaders were commanded by Richard I of England, better known as Richard the Lionheart, who sought to reclaim Jerusalem during the Third Crusade. The Crusaders won a number of battles at Acre, Arsuf, and Jaffa, yet they ultimately failed to capture Jerusalem. Later, King Richard made peace with the Saracen ruler, Saladin, on the condition that Christian pilgrims be allowed to freely visit Jerusalem. The Knights Templar, who were a part of the Crusader army, besieged the assassin fortress at Masyaf twice during the Third Crusade, although both attempts ended in failure. The first attack, in the year 1189, was led by the Templar Haras, who was a part of the assassin order until he betrayed them, hoping to locate the Apple of Eden. The second, in 1191, was led by the Templar Grand Master himself, Robert de Sablé. In all, both sieges were quelled due to the efforts of the assassin Altair ibn la-Ahad. By the year 1191, the Crusaders had conquered the cities of Jaffa and Acre and were on the march towards Jerusalem. During this time, Crusader troops could be found patrolling through the wilderness that divided the cities of Acre, Damascus, and Jerusalem. That same year, Altair set out to eliminate several corrupt men who were secretly Templars. Several of these men were important Crusaders and Saracens, which almost led to the two factions uniting in order to destroy their common enemy. To prevent this, Altair set out to assassinate the Templar Grand Master, Robert de Sablé, and succeeded in killing him after a long duel during the Battle of Arsuf. He then explained to Richard that the Templars were traitors to his army. Although the order was allowed to continue operating in the Levant, even purchasing the island of Cyprus, which became their main stronghold in the region for a time. In addition to Crusaders that served under the Kingdom of France, the Holy Roman Empire, and the Kingdom of England, the last of whom were commonly called Lionheart Crusaders after the epithet of their king, Richard the Lionheart. There were a number of independent military orders founded in the Holy Land. Three of these, the Knights Templar, the Knights Hospitalier, and the Teutonic Knights, became the iconic face of the Crusaders. The majority of Knights Hospitalier were themselves composed of Frenchmen and the Teutonic Knights, Germans. Throughout history, the Templars had existed in one form or another, and during the Crusades, they felt the need for support from the Catholic Church. With this, they turned into a monastic military organization, with the stated objective of protecting pilgrims in the Holy Land. However, their actual objective was to look for the pieces of Eden, one of which they found in the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem, and also to eliminate the influence of their sworn enemies, the assassins. In regards to leadership, by the year 1191, they were led by Robert de Sablé, who was responsible for finding the Apple of Eden in Solomon's temple. He planned to conquer the Holy Land from the Muslims and then drive out the other Crusaders in order to end the war. Leaders of both the other major knightly factions, several important Saracen individuals, and even the leader of the assassins, al-Mualim, were involved in this goal. The Templars had well-trained knights who were posted throughout the Holy Land in Crusader and Saracen cities alike. They wore similar armor to guard captains, although their armor sported a red cross on a white background instead of the prancing lion, which was the usual Crusader symbol. They were highly skilled and aggressive fighters, often breaking their enemy's defense with ease. Templar knights would never run away from a fight and would also choose to fight to the death. In total, there were at least 60 such knights, all of whom were killed by the assassin Altair ibn la-Ahad. The Knights Hospitalier, also known as the Sovereign Military Hospitaller Order of St. John of Jerusalem of Rhodes and of Malta, the Order of St. John, the Knights of the Hospital, and the Chevaliers of Malta were one of the Christian orders of the Crusades. Their emblem was a white cross, often on a black or red background. By the year 1191, the Grand Master of the Knights Hospitalier was Garnier de Naplouse, secretly also a Templar. After the Templars had lost the Apple of Eden to the assassins, Garnier began experimenting on his sick patients with herbs to try and replicate the mind-controlling effects of the apple. The Teutonic Order, the Order of Brothers of the German House of St. Mary in Jerusalem, more commonly known as the Teutonic Knights, were a monastic military order of German origin that participated in the Third Crusade. Their emblem was a black cross against a white background. During the Crusade, the Teutonic Order aided King Richard I of England in the conquest of Acre, and were later positioned in the city's middle district. The first Grand Master of the Knights, Teutonic Sibrand, was also secretly a member of the Templar Order, and he planned to use the Crusader fleet in Acre to blockade the city and prevent the European kingdoms from sending reinforcements, allowing the Templars to conquer the Holy Land. In the game, the player can choose between playing as a Crusader and a Saracen, which means that they will either be fighting for the Knights Templar, the Knights Hospitalier, the Knights Teutonic, or for the Assassins. Depending on which faction the player chooses, their arsenal of weapons and armor will change accordingly. If you choose to play as a Saracen, you'll have access to different weapons than if you were playing as a Crusader. It should also be noted that not all Crusaders are bad guys. If you want to play as a good Crusader, you'll need to select the Knights Templar as your faction. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you've learned something new about the Knights Templar during the Crusades. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share. Subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any new videos. See you next time.